If you're faster than everyone else, this video might make you uncomfortable because some of the most talented young footballers never reach the level they should. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't train, and definitely not because they're slow. They fail because they were too fast. Sounds ridiculous, right? After all, speed is one of the most valuable weapons in football. Coaches love it, teammates fear it, defenders hate it. But here's the problem. When speed becomes your answer to every situation, your development starts to slow down. And eventually, football catches up. At youth level, being faster than everyone can make you look unstoppable. At higher levels, it can expose every weakness you've been hiding. And that's why some players dominate at 14, disappear at 18, and struggle at 22. Today, we're going to break down the hidden problem with being the fastest player on the pitch. And more importantly, how to avoid the trap before it limits your potential. Most players think improvement is simple. Get faster, get stronger, get fitter, become more athletic, and yes, those things matter. But football isn't a sprint competition. It's a decision-making competition disguised as a sport. The pitch constantly asks questions. Where's the space? When should you pass? When should you slow down? When should you attack? When should you recycle possession? The best players don't always have the best physical tools. They often have the best answers. But if you're naturally faster than everyone else, you can accidentally avoid learning those answers. Why? Because speed allows you to escape situations that other players must solve. Imagine two wingers. One has average pace, the other is lightning fast. The average winger loses his marker by timing runs, manipulating defenders, scanning before receiving, and choosing better positions. The fast winger just knocks the ball past people and wins the race. Both get results, but only one is developing multiple football skills. That's where the problem begins, because football development is often hidden behind struggle, and speed removes a lot of that struggle. Here's the deeper reason fast players stop improving. Speed becomes a shortcut, and shortcuts are dangerous when they're your only route. Think about what happens every time you face a defender. If your first instinct is, I'll just outrun him, you never develop alternative solutions. You don't learn deception. You don't learn manipulation. You don't learn timing. You don't learn patience. You don't learn how defenders actually think. You're winning the battle without understanding the game. And that works until it doesn't. Because eventually you reach a level where everyone is athletic. Everyone is quick. Everyone is fit. Everyone can recover. Now your biggest advantage suddenly feels smaller. And if that's all you've built your game around, your performance drops. Not because you became worse, because the game became harder. The players who relied only on speed feel lost. The players who develop complete football intelligence keep progressing. That's the difference. Speed is an amplifier. It amplifies whatever football ability already exists underneath. If the foundation is weak, speed can only hide it for so long. Lesson 1, speed should create options, not become the option. This is the first mindset shift. Most young players use speed as the solution. Elite players use speed as a threat. There's a massive difference. Imagine you're a winger receiving the ball. A defender knows you're incredibly quick. What happens? He starts backing off. He gives extra space. He becomes cautious. Now your speed has already helped you before you've even moved. That's the key. The threat creates opportunities. Instead of immediately sprinting every time, start asking, what is my speed making the defender do? If he's backing off, maybe you shoot. If he's overprotecting the outside, maybe you cut inside. If he's nervous, maybe a simple body feint works. The best attackers don't constantly use speed. They use the fear of speed, and that's far more powerful, because now defenders are reacting to you mentally, not just physically. Lesson 2. The fastest players often become predictable. Here's something most players never realize. Defenders love predictable attackers, even if they're fast, because predictable players are easy to prepare for. Think about the winger who always pushes the ball down the line, every single time. Yes, he wins some duels, but after a while, the defender knows exactly what's coming. Now compare that to a player who can go outside, cut inside, play one-touch combinations, delay attacks, attack space, create space. Suddenly defending becomes much harder. The defender isn't reacting to speed anymore. He's reacting to uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most dangerous weapons in football. Watch high-level attackers closely. Many aren't constantly sprinting. They're constantly creating doubt. The defender never knows what's next. That's why they remain effective even when physical advantages decrease. So if you're naturally quick, ask yourself honestly, would defenders know exactly what I'm trying to do? If the answer is yes, your speed might actually be masking predictability. Lesson 3. Speed can hide. Poor decision making. This is where many talented players get stuck. They think they're making good decisions, but they're actually recovering from bad decisions with athleticism. Let me explain. A player receives the ball and takes a poor first touch. Normally that's a problem, but because he's incredibly fast, he recovers. Another player dribbles into a crowded area. Normally that's a mistake, but because he's quicker than everyone, he escapes. Another player makes a late run. Normally he misses the opportunity, but his pace helps him arrive anyway. Notice what's happening? The speed is covering errors, and when mistakes don't get punished, they don't get corrected. This creates a dangerous illusion. The player thinks, my decisions are working. In reality, his athleticism is saving him. Then he reaches a higher level. The defenders are quicker. The spaces are tighter. The mistakes finally get punished. And suddenly, he wonders what happened. Nothing happened. The game simply stopped forgiving weaknesses. That's why smart players regularly review their performances. Not just asking, did it work? But asking, was it actually the best decision? That's a completely different question, and it's where real growth happens. Lesson 4. The players who last learn to play at different speeds. This might be the most important lesson in the entire video. Football isn't about playing fast, it's about controlling speed. Watch experienced players. They're not sprinting constantly. They're changing rhythm constantly. Slow, pause, accelerate, slow again, explode. This destroys defenders because defenders struggle with changing tempo. Anyone can run fast. Few players can manipulate speed intelligently. Think of a striker checking toward the ball. He slows down, the defender relaxes, then suddenly accelerates into space. The separation wasn't created by maximum speed, it was created by timing. The same applies everywhere on the pitch. Fast players often believe more speed equals better football, but smarter players understand that variation creates the real advantage. If you're always at 100%, defenders can adjust. If you're constantly changing gears, defenders never feel comfortable. That's what makes players dangerous. Not just how fast they move, but when they choose to move fast. Lesson 5. Build the skills speed can't replace. Here's the reality. One day, your speed advantage will shrink. Maybe because the level improves. Maybe because opponents get stronger. Maybe because everyone becomes more athletic. When that happens, what remains? That's the question every player should ask. Because certain football qualities age extremely well. Scanning, positioning, decision-making, first touch, awareness, timing, composure. These skills don't disappear when defenders get faster. In fact, they become more valuable. A player with elite football intelligence can continue influencing games even without extraordinary athleticism, but a player who depends entirely on physical gifts often struggles when those gifts stop being unique. So every training session should include more than physical development. Train your eyes, train your awareness, train your understanding of space, train your decision-making, because those qualities continue paying dividends long after physical advantages level out. Practical application. So how do you actually apply this? Here's a simple challenge. For your next few matches, don't judge yourself by goals, assists, or dribbles. Judge yourself by these questions. How often did I scan before receiving? How many different solutions did I use? Did I change my tempo? Did I manipulate defenders? Did I create uncertainty? Did I make decisions early? Did I rely on speed because it was the best option or because it was the easiest option? That last question is powerful because growth usually begins where convenience ends. Every time you force yourself to solve a football problem without immediately relying on pace, you're expanding your game. You're becoming harder to defend, harder to predict, harder to stop. And that's exactly what higher level football demands. Identity level, close. The players who improve the fastest aren't always the fastest players. They're the players who keep adding layers to their game. Speed is a weapon, a fantastic weapon, but it's still just one weapon. And football becomes dangerous when opponents know that's the only one you have. The goal isn't to be the fastest player on the pitch. The goal is to become the player who can hurt opponents in the most ways possible. The player who can beat you with movement, with timing, with intelligence, with awareness, and yes, with speed too. Because when speed is combined with football intelligence, that's when players become truly elite. So if you're naturally fast, don't waste that gift. Use it. But don't hide behind it. Develop the skills that speed can't replace. Because eventually every player reaches a level where running faster isn't enough. And when that moment arrives, the players who kept learning are the players who keep rising. If you enjoyed this video and want more football development content that helps you improve beyond the obvious advice, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments. What's one part of your game you've been relying on too much lately?